This is Berserk Boy, a fast-paced indie platformer set in a dystopian future where you play as the titular Berserk Boy. And this is the game's trailer I was hired to make. And this is me, Addy Valentine.
Hello.
And last year, the creator of Berserk Boy, Zoo, contacted me to make some of the trailers for his upcoming game after watching some of my YouTube videos. Yeah, I don't get it either. Zoo had already been working with another animator, but something fell through, someone banged someone else's mom, and as a contractor myself, I live like a vulture, happily scooping up any leftover scraps of work in order to pay the bills on my very not vulture home. I miss the simple times. But to be frank, I've never animated a single cartoon in my whole goddamn life. But that didn't stop me in making this exciting anime-style trailer that got thousands of views, a bunch of positive reception, and helped sell a couple of game copies, all with practically no prior animation experience. How'd I done do that? Well, I'm about to show you how. Okay, you can come in now. I just had my brother Benny here do all the hard work. Now don't tell him this, but Benny is a much better animator than I am. And while I could take over the storyboarding, inking, coloring, and compositing aspects, Benny happily was voluntold to take over the animation. Throughout this process, I learned there's a lot more going on into making something go from this to this than just animation. And I'm not just saying that to make myself look more useful. But the first thing I learned is probably could have charged more. And the second thing I learned is that some of the parts to make an anime are so easy, an idiot like me can do it. And we'll talk about what those easy parts are later. But first, I want to address some of the problems of translating a character from a video game into a traditional animation. Although both cartoons and pixel art games use animation, they're done in very different ways. The movements of a character in a video game are designed to be automated and repeatable. A character with a single walk cycle is good enough and can be used for pretty much any situation. And the nice part about this kind of animation is that once it's done, you don't have to make another one. It's all you need. But with traditional animation, a run cycle isn't just a run cycle. Especially like something in an anime where you've got different angles, perspectives, environments. For each additional detail on a character, the more work you're gonna have. Whereas in pixel art, with some details, you kind of just copy something and alter it a little bit most of the time. The characters in Berserk Boy all wear some type of futuristic armor with lots of lines, screws, but I'm not gonna be the one to draw these details thousands of times. Benny is, and he said he's not doing it either. And as an unproven two-man or one flower and something else team, there's a real worry of running out of time, so it's best to err on the simple side. Now, we didn't actually make those neat little character turnaround sheets you see with professional studios, but I did make some pretty professional looking storyboards, which Benny would decipher and turn into actual drawings, which I would then make an animatic from in Adobe After Effects and then send them off to the client for approval. Zoo and I went back and forth hashing out the timing of each beat of the trailer and what kind of story we were trying to tell. The first thing every trailer was going to have was an intro animatic introducing the main character K transforming into Berserk Boy, followed by some core gameplay footage. Then a small animatic to introduce Berserk Boy's ability copying mechanic, followed by some gameplay footage of each ability overlaid with their official art. Then more footage of story moments, bosses, essentially just complications. Add some spice to the trailer. Then we'd have a third animated sequence introducing the friends of Berserk Boy to undercut that strong umami flavor we just got from the bosses. A light, puffy airiness. And then a dog, and more shots coming in quickly as we build up to the final animatic. A standoff between Dr. Genos and Berserk Boy, and then logo. No biggie, except it was. What are you doing back there? Now, I could get into the process behind every single scene that we animated, but I just want to focus on one, the final fight between Berserk Boy and Dr. Genos, which we pretty much lifted from the 90s Mega Man cartoon. Almost verbatim! Berserk Boy wears its Mega Man inspiration on its sleeve, so I thought it'd be very apropos if the trailer did the same. It's called Fromage. I told you I could pronounce it right. Fuck you. No, come back. After the initial animatic, Benny would sketch up some more refined frames in OpenToons. The important thing with the anime style is being economic and intentional with your frames. Not too smooth, just trying to communicate the feeling of the motion. It also keeps the prices down as much as possible. Ka-chinga! Don't judge me because I've fallen so far from God. Now, OpenToons was the last animation software used in the making of this trailer because MS Paint is an excellent way to ink out a sketched cell. Earlier, I mentioned there's an animation part that so idiot a me can do. This is what I was talking about. As long as you've got yourself a pretty decent, okay mid-range animator, inking a frame is a cakewalk, especially when going mono width, which we decided to do after studying some of the frames in this Princess Mononoke book I got. We also noticed it kept mentioning something called a tracing machine. I couldn't find any information on what that was, but it was probably talking about me, because I'm the tracing machine! Sometimes I'd use Adobe Illustrator to make outlines with varying widths for more dramatic cells like this one. Whatever gets the job done. To extract the outline from Paint, I then used my favorite busted-ass looking 90s pixel art software, Graphic Scale. Just look at that UI. It's like teaching your grandma to text, only sexier. From there, I'll take the outlines into Adobe Illustrator and vectorize them. Sometimes there's a little cleanup required in the conversion process, but it can also add some pretty cool artifacts, especially around the corners that give it a little more of a hand-drawn look. Getting the outlines vectorized is an important step because at this point, I don't know how much camera movement I'm going to add to a frame or how much I'm going to zoom in at this point, so it's good to have an infinitely scalable frame just to be safe. Again, I'm not using standard tools here. I'm sure there's an easier way to do it, but I'm more of a cut to learn kind of guy. A bang your head into the wall until blood comes out kind of guy. Maybe starts to learn to like it kind of guy. At this point, we can add a little color to the cells. I picked palettes the same way I would pick palettes for pixel art, getting the main color, and then for darker shades, we bring down the lightness a bit and shift slightly to blue. Most of the time, Benny would provide guides for this, red being highlights, blue being shadow. He assures me that's how the pros do it. And other times, he would expect me to use my brain a little bit and infer where the actual shades would be. How generous. Benny! What the fuck, dude? All in all, from the time I got a cell from initial sketch to inked to colored, it could take from 1 to 3 hours, depending on how detailed the frame was. Like I said, it's not hard, just really tedious. But just at a glance, I think our cells turned out all right. But we're not done yet. We're at the finish line, compositing. If we were to take our cells as they are and just sequence them together, it would look choppy and not really like a modern anime. If we really want to sell the look, we gotta add some camera movements, crazy effects, bloom, that's a flower pun, and for all that, we move into Adobe After Effects. We're doing it in post now, and I'm not talking about cereal brands. Gabagool. Now, the first thing I did is slap them in there and sequence them, timing them to the music. I'll then do a little bit of color correction to bring up the blacks a bit, making the outlines not look so aggressive and give more of a faded look. I'll then layer in our background and some particles like this footage of embers into the shot. She comes from good stock right there. To better place the character in the scene, I'll usually put a gradient matte over it and adjust the blend mode and transparency a little bit until we're just happy enough. Pretty much every shot in the trailer has some form of additional camera movement. This helps add a little more visual excitement to the choppy frames, and anime does this all the time. It shouldn't be legal to have a 10-second static shot like this, but with the slow camera pan, somehow I'll allow it. Like how Berserk Boy jumps up after getting shot at. It's only around 5 separate cells, but we're moving him and the camera around so fast in such a short amount of time, you can't really tell. For VFX elements like the laser here, one trick I found is that you don't even need to take it through the entire cleanup process. You can take the original sketch, blur it a bit, and add some aggressive bloom! Or glow, as it's called in After Effects. It even works for fire, like in this shot, but can it hide the pain? Speaking of glow, I add some on every single frame to give it more of that modern anime look. And as if light was actually bouncing around the scene. Add a little motion blur, and blammo! We got ourselves an animated composited sequence of animation. And it all started from something looking like this to this. And there you have it. Rinse and repeat for every other sequence. Now you might be thinking, okay, Addy, so essentially you're just saying that if I wanted to make a Miyazaki rivaling anime like you, all I have to do is hire an insanely talented animator. Now, first off, he's not that good, okay? Don't let it get to his head. But it helps. I'm not trying to let the Dunning-Kruger set in. Inking, compositing, coloring, all the steps to making an animation take a lot of skill. And I'm just dipping my feet a little bit. I just wanted to come across everything is figure-outable. Or just pay me to do it instead. All right, well, that's all we got time for today. Thanks for watching. Love ya. Bye. Mwah.